It's time for Outdoors Bound with George Noliff, sponsored by Kubota of Lynchburg.
Yeah, we're headed outdoors bound this morning, and a huge controversy is actually brewing in the Virginia General Assembly over a tiny creature that some have called the most important fish in the ocean. WFXR's George Noliff is joining us live this morning. So George, what's this all about?
Brandon, usually I'm on the riverbank, but today I'm in the halls of Richmond and the state capitol. We know what happened. A bill to study the population of menhaden, that's a fish vital to Virginia's billion-dollar commercial and sport fishing industries, was essentially killed for this session. What we're still trying to figure out is why. Now, how y'all doing, folks? That why has a lot of people pretty angry and demanding answers this morning. And to hear the folks involved in this debate talk, it's pitting sportsmen, conservationists, and researchers against an industrial fishing giant.
It's been moved and seconded that we continue HB 19 to the 2025 session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
No debate, no witnesses, just a voice vote in the House Rules Subcommittee on Studies. That's all it took to delay a study of the health of Atlantic menhaden in the Chesapeake Bay for another year, a study that conservation and sportsmen's groups have been calling for in the face of what they say are declining numbers of fish, bird, and animal species.
Looking at all the different concerns, whether you look at other fish that eat menhaden, whether you look at marine mammals, whether you look at birds, whether you put the climate change impact in there, there are some really important questions that need to be answered.
Questions are being raised about menhaden because they're the target of a fishing operation run by Omega Protein. Omega, a Canadian company with operations in Reedville, uses a fleet of vessels, spotter planes, net boats, and other technology to fish for menhaden on an industrial scale. Omega says Atlantic Coast menhaden stocks are just fine, but House Bill 19 would have funded research to take a closer look at numbers just in the Chesapeake. Delegate R. Lee Ware, the bill's sponsor, briefly addressed the subcommittee. He told members that stakeholders, including Omega, had met months ago and had reached consensus on moving forward with the bill.
And as a result of that, they came to a unanimous agreement about how to proceed with the science. They suggested a 3-year longitudinal study that will really give us answers on this very important fish.
Delegate Ware says the research would answer questions about a species vital to Virginia's economy. Conservation and sport fishing groups echo that. They're disappointed the bill's been delayed for another year.
It had bipartisan support, and yet again, this is the second year in a row that this has happened. They kicked the can last year, and now they've kicked the can again. The only conclusion we can come to is they don't want science. And what's really frustrating is when we raise concerns about what's going on in the Bay, we are often told there's no science to support our concern.
Unfortunately, we're in a situation now where, the funding for this bill is at least another year away, which really kicks the can down the road, which is unfortunate, being that we have so many pressing questions when it comes to our menhaden population in Chesapeake Bay.
So why was that bill put on the back burner, essentially killing it without lawmakers having to say no for another year when so many say the research needs to be done right now? That's a good question. I sent emails to every member of the subcommittee, spent a good part of yesterday trying to reach every one of them by phone. Delegate Dan Helmer's office was the only one to get back to me. An aide said they'd try to get the delegate to call me back. He hasn't. Only one Roanoke area lawmaker sits on that panel. That's Terry Austin, whose office is up in Buchanan. Didn't hear from him either.
And so, George, what exactly does Omega Protein, what do they make with the menhaden they catch?
Brandon, the reason they call it a reduction fishery is because the fish are reduced to fish oil or fish meal, then used for a variety of purposes. Now, for its part, Omega denies it had anything to do with the bill being delayed, said members of its team did not lobby lawmakers on HB 19. Now, I'm still going to be working the phones today. Hey, lawmakers, if you're watching this, got my phone right here. You got my number. You got my email. Give me a call back. Just want to know why we decided that this delay was what we need to do right now.
All right, George Noliff getting out there, getting the story for us. We appreciate it. Thanks, George.